Welcome back to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. I am your host, Brent Daniels, and let me open with a question. Who do you know that's going to sign a contract today? Who can you call? Who can you reach out to? Who can you follow up with that is going to sign a contract today? I am telling you, everybody that is listening or watching this is the most important question to ask yourself every single morning because it's going to tune in your mental antenna into finding somebody that is going to sign a contract. I am telling you, start your day this way. If you're just listening to this podcast for the first time and I'm smacking you in the face with it, good. If you have been a long-time listener and part of Rhino Nation, then really think about this question. Let the brain start going. Get going right now as you're listening to this and find that one person that is going to sign a contract today. Now with me, I am so excited for this interview because we have got an incredible talent, an incredible superstar out of Louisiana. Which, there's honestly, I think Louisiana is a wonderful state to do incredible business in, but we just don't hear a lot out of Louisiana. So this is very exciting for me. It is exciting for me to bring on for the first time to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast, Mr. Joshua White. Say hello.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Hey, this is great. So if you guys are watching this, or if you guys want to watch this, if you're just listening to this, make sure you go to Brent Daniels Real Estate on YouTube and check it out because the background that Joshua has is the most unique background I've ever seen ever.
Oh, for sure.
It is essentially like an elementary school background, right?
Yeah, we keep it simple around here.
I love it. Now a guy that's doing deals and getting it done, and he still has, he's still in touch with his childhood.
Oh yeah.
No.
Better believe it.
So Joshua, introduce yourself to the audience. Introduce yourself to everybody watching out there, and give us a background. Who are you?
Yeah, how you guys doing? I'm Joshua White. I'm out of Gonzales, Louisiana. I operate in more or less in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It's only about 15 minutes away. I'm just your average, everyday, hardworking guy. I'm a plant worker out here. So I work 12-hour shifts. I actually be going in the night for 3:30, working 3:30. So I do this part-time until it becomes full-time in a sense. So just working steadily to get there, And that's me in a nutshell.
And
yeah.
How many hours a week are you working?
At my job, usually we do like a every other type thing. So I'll work, today's Monday, correct? Mm-hmm. So I'll work Monday, Tuesday nights, and I'll be off Wednesday, Thursday, and then I'll work Friday, Saturday, Sunday days. So I'm swapping back and forth. So I would say about 48 and then 36. I think that's how it more or less plays out, 48 hours, not including overtime, because sometimes we just randomly have like 12-hour shift overtime.
And this is like plant work?
Yeah, this is plant work. Yeah.
So
yeah,
what do you do? What do you do?
So I'm a chlorine operator. We create chlorine, or we make chlorine. And we do have other chemical products that we use at our plant. It's a pretty big operation. We're right next to Shell, literally right across the street. They're an oil refinery. We're a chemical plant. So yeah, it's pretty hectic at times. Yeah, for sure.
How does somebody that works at a chlorine plant find and start, not only find and discover wholesaling, but actually start doing wholesaling? How did you find this business?
Man, so I went on this journey of like self-improvement probably like a year before. So I was basically just on YouTube every day, YouTube and just trying to find something, listening to like Napoleon Hill stuff on YouTube, a lot of Eric Thomas, hip hop preacher, just anything that YouTube would feed me that had kind of like that positivity, self-help. And then one day I ended up getting on YouTube. I was looking at a few things to try to earn money, like other businesses. And what ended up happening was this guy, I'm pretty sure you heard of him, Max Maxwell, came on my screen. And I was like, I wasn't even going to look at the video because I was like, who's this guy talking about he's making, 20, 30,000 a month? And why is he on YouTube telling people about it, And so I wasn't going to, but long story short, I clicked on it. And when he said what he said, I was like, this can't be real. Mm-hmm. So I literally, before I found the tribe, I literally just kind of followed what he told me to do. And I was just kind of spinning my wheels. And I was just like, man, this is crazy, but it worked. I ended up getting my very first deal by just kind of following that little bitty track that he left.
I
So
love it. What? So how did you find it? How did you get your first deal? What was the?
driving for dollars.
Yeah. Okay.
So everybody, driving for dollars. Literally, I stay in a small little neighborhood, and we flooded in like 2016. Not my house particularly, God forbid, but we flooded the area 2016, and it got about maybe like 3 or 4 feet worth of water. So this house had been sitting there since we moved in like 15, and I was like, man, like what are they gonna do with that house? And I always wondered that when I passed by houses and I saw these houses, like what are they doing with these houses? Like somebody's just gonna leave it there? And long story short, after I found out wholesaling, I was like, oh, okay. I ended up finding out who owns it because it was a pretty nice house. It was like a 4 bedroom, 2,500 square foot house, but it was just gutted, halfway. So I was like, found the guy who owned it, gave him a call, cold called him out of the blue, and then he was like, yeah, let's do something. But he ended up turning out to be a big developer, a land developer. He just owned the house. He was renting it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And so my first deal was basically, first goal was don't get sued. And then my second goal was to get the deal done.
Sure.
So that's literally how my career started, not getting sued and just failing forward.
I love it, and it's crazy, right? So you got his information. How did you get his information? Did you just look it up on the tax records, or
Yeah.
how'd you
So
do it?
I went real old school with it. Like I looked up his like the who owned it through the tax association. I mean assessor's office. And then after I looked it up on the tax assessor, I figured out it was actually under an LLC. So my first thought was I owned a business before, a transportation company. So I was like, oh, I can go to the Secretary of State's website and see if I can look this guy up because I couldn't look it up under. I was using like fastpeoplesearch.com. So I still use that sometimes today. And his name wasn't popping up. His LLC wouldn't come up. So after I went to the Secretary of State, it listed him as a manager. So I was like, oh, let me call this guy. So I called him up. He was like, hey, man, yeah, how did you get my number? I was like, I just got your information off of the state's taxes website. And he was like, oh, okay. And that was good enough for him. And then we just kind of created a relationship, worked out a deal, but I've never met the guy. So, yeah.
It was all digital.
It was all on the phone, text messaging, like never met the guy. Just, he's a big developer. He doesn't have time to just sit down and have coffee. So,
Yeah. I love it. Well, first of all, that I love that you just picked up the phone and called them. I mean, come on, guys.
I do, man.
I started this whole podcast out with who are you going to talk to today that's going to sign a contract? Well, the only way to get to that position is to actually talk to people, right?
Right.
You actually have to pick up the phone at some point and have a quality conversation with a distressed property owner. We know that's the key to this business. And what Joshua is saying here is, with no experience, with just YouTube, with just following some of the things that he was learning, he found well, first of all, most people stop when they see that an LLC owns a property and they don't dig deeper. That's why that opportunity was probably right there, because nobody else is going to take that extra step, which I think is huge. That's a gold nugget for everybody out there listening. Now, it's different resources have it. Some of it's the Secretary of State. Here in Arizona, it's the Corporation Commission. Like, it just depends. Google it in your area and find out who has it, because it is public information.
Right.
If you have a company, it needs to be publicized, and it's out there somewhere so you can find it. So phenomenal. So you just picked up the phone. How much did you make on that deal?
Man, I JV'd the deal, made $3,000. I was trying to make 10, but they ended up beating me and the guy down a little bit. I knew it was a good deal, but it was my first deal, so I was just like, screw it.
Sure, got it. And then what happened? So you did that. You made $3,000.
Yeah.
And you went from that. You went from believing that you might be able to do this to it being a fact that, wait a second, this could literally generate income for me, for myself and my family. Yeah. So were you hooked? Were you ready? Were you going?
Man, I was like, it was like a whole new world. They say once your mind's open to something, it can't be closed again. To that specific item. So I was just like, man, I was running and gunning. I was just trying to do this process on like driving for dollars.
Yep.
And I was just like, man, it was real time consuming. And I was just like, man, I don't know if I have time to just go through all these names and numbers. And I was just kind of dealing and just trying to go around. I mean, working around my job. It was really tough, but I made a decision to do it. That was my biggest thing.
You made the decision. So what does that mean? Does that mean that you
So
change your
so that means
schedule?
that
Does that mean when you're off, you're
yeah,
turning on your entrepreneurial spirits
right,
and
right.
you know what I mean? Like, what
Yeah,
does that
yeah,
mean?
yeah. So what I mean by that is that like when I made the decision to do it, that means I basically was like, okay, I look at things this way. TV, I look at it like this. So if you watch TV, is is TV paying you or are they paying the people that are like acting on the screen? And so I was just like, man, I'm not getting paid here. So I look at it like a value of time. So I hate a bad investment. So I was just like, you know what? This is a terrible investment. I'm sitting here wasting hours and hours when I could be doing something that could potentially, if not now, eventually bring me some type of income into my household. So I made a decision to like put TV down, put music down, and just really focus in on wholesaling. It might sound kind of dry. I know a lot of people are
Hmm.
like, man, put music down, but I was just really hooked. Like I just went on my phone, downloaded anything and everything that dealt with wholesaling houses. I just typed it into my podcast
Yep.
searcher, and I just got all these things, and that's how I came up on Wholesaling Inc.
I love it. And it's
Yeah,
really interesting. Unless I have my family and the kids and everybody in the car,
yeah,
I do not listen to music. I mean,
yeah,
this has been going on for probably 6 years now. All I
yeah,
listen to is Audible and podcasts. Truly.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's like, I mean, you learn so, you can get so
yeah.
much. You can,
So
so
much.
much
Yeah,
can be piled in
yeah,
that when you're just sitting there driving or sitting in traffic or if
yeah.
you have a commute or whatever it is. I mean,
Right.
it's wildly powerful,
Yeah.
and it's something that all of a sudden you're building up your experience level through other people
Right.
while you're sitting in the car.
Yeah.
And you can't do that when you're just listening to music or whatever else. So
Yeah.
I think that's a huge point. I love it. So you found Wholesaling Inc. and you're like, okay, let's get going.
Yeah.
Let's fire this thing up, right?
Right. So it didn't necessarily happen just that quick. So we were trying to figure out if, like, I kind of got my wife hooked after she figured out, like, I actually closed the deal because she didn't know what I was doing. Like, I was like putting business cards together, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm about to start wholesaling." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Look, just let me go on this journey. When I'm there, I'll let you know exactly what went down." So long story short, after we did that first deal, she was like so proud of me, because she saw me moving around a lot after work, and cutting grass and doing all the house dad duty stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so she was just like, I was like, look, you need to listen to this so you can kind of try to help me out here. And she started listening to Wholesaling Inc. also, and she's like, you know what, we ought to maybe try, getting into it. And I was like, you know what, I'm thinking so. So we called and we just kind of wanted to do like a price check
Yeah, 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 sure.
and see how much it was
Yeah,
because we couldn't find any prices on it anywhere.
yeah,
And when we called, they were really receptive and like beautiful people, just talking to them on the phone.
yeah,
And I was just like, man, right now it's kind of like a lot of cash. So I was like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna try to kind of piece it all together,
yep,
right?
yep,
And so I had deals fall out, and I paid for it in should I say experience
sure.
rather than paying for the railway around the heartache.
Yeah,
So I mean, yeah, for sure. But now we're in the tribe, man, and it's awesome.
I love it. And you joined TTP. When did you join?
I think I joined TTP in April.
Yeah,
I think it was in April I
it's
first
been
spoke.
quick. And then you just started implementing. Are you making the calls? Is somebody else making the
Yeah,
calls?
so I was making the calls at first, and then just being honest, it just kind of fell apart for me because I was like, man, I had a bad list, and it was brutal. Like, and it wasn't that I was talking to people. That was the problem. I wasn't talking to people,
Right.
and just sitting on the phone dialing, and I was like hand dialing these people off of my cell phone. So it was, I mean,
Brutal.
I was, you could have called me Mojo Sales because I tell you, I was blowing through. I let it ring a few times, and if they didn't answer, and I didn't have a script, I didn't have anything. I was just, winging it.
Yeah.
Just honestly, I was just winging it.
Yeah.
And so I ended up kind of lagging off of that because I'm like, man, I don't want to just keep like sitting on the phone full of silence for 30 minutes before one person picks up, and then it might not even be the right person. Like I
Yep.
had one guy offer me to come to this bar mitzvah in Florida. It's like, sure, no problem, I'll come.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a journey for sure. But yeah, man, it was. So wholesaling Inc. definitely was a lifesaver for sure. Knowing the list to pull, and then I was able to talk to people. I don't mind talking to people.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me. I'm a kind of people watcher type. No weird stuff. But I go places and I just observe how people interact with each other.
Yep.
And man, when I was able to start pulling the right list and actually talking to people, oh, it was so much easier to be on the phone. So much easier.
Yeah.
I enjoyed
Well,
it.
well, here's the thing. You could piece it together. It's just it. You have to get through the frustrating part. You got to get
Yeah.
through that kind of learning curve, and then you got to be doing it for about 18 months before you're caught up to where you could be by just getting into the program. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? People joining
Yeah.
TTP, they got a deal from like you, very similar. They get a deal from making a call, and then they keep trying to do it, and it's just not. They're not able to get that same result again, and they need a system to be consistent. That's what it
Yeah.
is. And then
Yeah.
since you've been consistent, how's it been?
Man, it's been awesome. Did a nice chunky deal. I tell you what, I didn't think that, just piecing it all together. Everybody was saying you're supposed to make 10 grand. You're supposed to make 10 grand. And then I was going to these local RIAs and they're like, no, and these are big guys saying, hey, you might hit a single, and the 10 grand is like the home run here,
Yeah.
supposedly. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, these people across the nation are doing 10 grand. Like I'm supposed to be making 10 grand.
Yep.
But like I said, my first deal was three grand, and it made me believe that it works,
Yep.
but it wasn't motivating enough.
Yep.
I was just like, man, I put in like 2 months worth of work I mean, it wasn't a consistent 2 months, but so much just happened throughout that deal, trying to get it through. It just kind of like left a taste in my mouth where I was like, man, I'm not expecting it to be easy, but man, is this worth it? Because I was working a lot. So
Yeah.
this last deal made me know that cold calling is definitely worth it for sure.
So let's talk
For sure.
about it. Let's talk about
For sure.
it.
All right. Well, I remember I was kind of in a funk. I was really kind of like depressed a little bit because I had joined the tribe, and I wasn't doing what I was so gun ho when I started, and then life happened a little bit, and then I kind of got weaned off of it. And then I was just like, man, I wanted to get back, but I felt like as though I was stuck in just like limbo.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna call Brent, and I know Brent's gonna straighten me out. So I called you, and I was like, look, man, just tell me what to do so I can get back started rolling. And you were like, I need 1,000 addresses. I don't care how you get them. I need 1,000 addresses. I need you to start calling 3 hours every day. And I was
Yep.
like, all right, coach, you got it. He was like that old football, baseball coach I had. I was like, all right, coach,
Yeah.
can't let Brent down. So, man, I ended up, I think I was 2 hours into cold calling. And I was talking to people, and I got a few leads. And then I was like, you know what? I'm tired of sitting here. I think I'm done, And something said, no, Brent said do 3 hours. You've got to do 3 hours. And I
Yep.
was like, oh, cool, I'm going to do 3 hours. So I think I was into like maybe 30 minutes into the last hour. And I ended up talking to this homeowner. And initially I called her about a property. And she said, oh, we sold that property.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, instantly I heard Brent saying, do you have anything else?
That's
and so
right.
I was like, well, hey, you sold that one. Do you have anything else that that may need some work, needs a little fixing up? And she was like, you know what? Actually, I've got 2 properties. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, dude. I was like, all right. Well, can I, meet you at those properties? Kind of, see if they fit my wheelhouse. And she was like, sure. So we ended up meeting at the properties like the next day. I try to get out as soon as I can.
Yeah.
And because like I said, only have a few days off. So I try to push everything and have everything in those days that I have off. So it's like, hey, do you have some time? She was like, yeah, I can meet you, that evening. So saw the first house she told me about. And the first house was a house she owned, actually. And she didn't own both of them. This was a brother and sister. So she was like, tired of paying taxes on it. It got flooded. It was a complete gut. And I was like, okay. And she's like, I haven't done anything with it, but I'm too old to get back into the remodeling market. And I was like, okay, great. Well, that's what I'm here for. So I get there, and like she said, it had the house had great bones, but it was just completely gutted. No sheetrock. All you saw was just a little wiring, lights kind of just hanging from the fixture. But a good thing about it was it did have like a pretty new HVAC in it. So I was
Nice.
like, oh, that's a plus.
Yeah.
That's a plus. So we left there and we went to her brother's property. And that property was basically a property that he was renting out that kind of, he was basically a tired landlord. He was just done with it. But she was handling everything. So she took me over there and it was halfway gutted. Definitely needed some work for sure. But, and that was the beginning of the biggest deal I've done to date. Like that's where we started. Yeah.
What list was it from?
It was from the high equity list.
High equity.
So
High
basically, I just kind
equity
of
absentee or high?
high
Yep.
equity absentee owner, out of state owner.
So, oh, nice.
Yeah.
So, just to break that down, guys, they don't live in the state, right? You heard that. This is a rental property or something that they don't occupy or live in, and they have a good amount of equity in it, based on whatever algorithms
Right.
wherever you're going
Yeah.
to pull. List source, was it list source?
Yeah, list source.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pulled it
So
from list
that you
source.
pull from list source. So
Right.
an incredible opportunity there. Depends on your market. Now, a lot of those, that's a very popular list. So if you're in a very big market, that list is going to be just beat up like crazy. But if you're in a smaller market, I'm telling you, that is an incredible list to go after because not a lot of people are going after it. And those are so many like red flags or at least their hands raised at some point that says, this could potentially be a good deal. So you called her. She said no. She sold it. You asked the ever important question when somebody tells you no. Do you have anything else that you would consider selling? Maybe something that needs some rehab or some love, maybe even some land, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
It's an important question to ask, so
Yeah.
huge. And the condition of the property was totally beat up. I assume her timeline was as quick as possible?
Yeah, I mean, I always basically that's my timeline. So that's just generally how we have a conversation. How quickly do you need this thing to move? And that lets me know the significance of how quickly I can really get the deal done. We
And
have
how
a saying out
motivated
here
they
that says
are.
pressure bust pipes.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to have that pressure in a sense, either on me or on her, in a good way to be able to move it forward and we not get stagnant in the deal. Yeah, for sure.
Love it. And the brother, he was cool. He wanted to sell it.
Yeah, so he basically did everything that the sister, she was kind of like I don't even know if she's an older sister, but she definitely moved things along. So I actually, this lady was an in-state. The list was out-of-state, in-state owners, absentee owners.
Got it.
And the reason I did that was because the out-of-state list was like 300 people. Like it wasn't a lot. A lot of people move from Louisiana, but a lot of people don't. Like, they're born here, they die here,
Yep.
in a sense. It's real Southern, they love it here in a sense, right? So, but I had like 3,000 in-state absentee owners. So I was like, oh, okay, great. So she just happened to be a part of that
Got it.
in-state side
Yep.
Of the absentee owners. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what price did you lock him up for?
So, I basically, I through all my experience so far with kind of dealing with people, I try to let them tell me the price in a sense, like, as best I can, try to ask as many questions as I can without annoying the person, right? Especially if they're an older person. But when I spoke with her, she was a really nice lady. When I spoke with her, she was like, I don't really want a lot for him. And, I'm not thinking a big number. And she threw this number out. She was like, 30,000. I'm not thinking nothing big like that. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, that was where I was gonna, kind of start. So I was like, all right, well, what were you thinking?
That's the best, right, Joshua?
Yeah.
When they throw out something and you're like, it happened to us this weekend. He threw out, well, we probably couldn't get this price, and we're like, oh, that was a smoking deal at that price. Okay,
Right.
Here we go.
Yeah, I was like, man, I was gonna make 10 grand at that price, So, we talked about it. And I said, okay, well, look, let me go ahead and talking about it with my my financial side of my company. And she was like, okay. And so I just kind of left it alone for a little bit, maybe called her back in like 30 minutes. And I was like, hey, could you do somewhere around 15? And I felt like that was a lower offer. It made me feel kind of like, So I always heard on the podcast, like, I don't know if it's Todd Toback that says this, but he's like, somebody said that if your offer's not, like, if you don't feel uncomfortable making your offer, you're not low enough.
Right.
So I like to make my offers feel like they're fair, but still, at a low point to where I feel like, this is a good deal in a sense, like for them.
Love it.
The number I locked it up for was, I wanted to do it for 15. She said no, she couldn't do 15. And she was like, well, can we make it 18? And so I was ready to be like, sold, done, And so after that happened, I was just like, I paused for a second, gained my composure inside, and I was just like, yeah, I think we can do 18. It's pushing it, but we can
Yeah.
do 18. Yeah,
Yeah. So that's for two houses or just one?
both of them.
Both houses.
Both houses.
18,000.
18, yeah.
Woo! And what'd you sell it for?
I sold them for 40 as a
22,000.
pair. I sold them for 40,000 as a pair.
Right, which means you made 22,000.
$22,000, yeah.
Hold on a second.
Hook me up, man. Hook me up. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Ring
Yeah,
that
sure.
bell. I love. Well, so much for that whole. Here in Louisiana, you can only get
Yeah, man.
3,000 per deal. That's a big
Yeah,
deal, and you go
yeah,
out there and smash 22,000. I mean, come on.
yeah, yeah,
Listen, it's
man.
in here,
Yeah,
100%.
truly.
The bigger deals are in your mind for sure. If you're
Yeah,
looking for bigger deals, you will find bigger deals. If you let people naturally give you the price that they want as opposed to negotiating against yourself off the bat, you are going to fall into big deals. I'm telling you, the
yeah,
biggest deals I've ever done, ever, the seller gave me the price first. Every
yeah,
time. Every time. I mean, we
yeah.
anchor low, man. I mean, we
Right,
are we are relentless. I've got a couple
right.
gals. My two acquisition managers are bulldogs when it comes to anchoring low.
Yeah,
Still, not even close to when the seller anchors themselves. So
for sure.
great advice there.
Man, it's like I know you said the $50,000 club changes your mindset, but I felt like this was my first wholesale deal
Yeah,
because I'm like, this is what I've been quote unquote telling myself I should be getting here in this market.
yeah,
I've got a pretty good feel for it. I've got a great relationship with a lot of real estate people, but at the same time, I'm smart enough to know that they don't always have all the answers either.
right.
So I like to kind of stay in my niche and work with people who've already kind of been around. And I've only been doing this thing, man. When I started, I was talking to some coworkers and I was telling them what I wanted to do, and they were like, "Man, it's kind of saturated, huh? That's that, And we buy houses signs like all around. I had no idea what they were until I started.
Sure.
And they were like, "Oh, that's what that is." I had a guy who was my confidant, and I was like, "You know what, man? You know, I feel as though even if it takes me a year and I only do one deal, and this was when I very first started, I was like, at least I know more now. At least I've learned something,
Yep.
that can potentially, bring me income at any point in time. And man, a year later, after and only 2 months after joining the tribe, like 22 grand, man.
22 grand.
That's crazy.
I
It's
love it.
crazy, bro. Crazy.
And you mentioned the 50K club. In the TTP program, we have the 50K club where I encourage and I motivate and I push and I try to, get everybody to get that $50,000 deal
Yeah.
plus because those are huge, huge, huge. Your brain changes forever. It's huge.
Yeah.
And I think it's already happened for you at 22,000. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like the next time that you text me with a copy of a check and it's going to be
Yo,
50,000
it's coming.
plus, you're going to be
Hey,
like,
I receive it, man. You're in the spirit right now.
let me into the club.
Free.
Yeah. So, well, speak to people that are, starting out in this or listening to this for the first time. Like, how do they keep their mind right and stay focused on really, obviously they have to take care of their responsibilities with
Right.
potentially a part-time or full-time job, but also making that transition over to being an entrepreneur. Because there had to be, Joshua, there had to be something inside of you
Yeah.
that said, I don't want to have a job forever. I believe that I can grow a business. I can have a business. I can run a business. You're not listening to inspirational things like Napoleon Hill and the hip hop preacher. If you didn't already have it inside you that said, I want more. There's more
Yeah.
to it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
speak to
Yeah.
those people that are like that haven't started yet, but they're getting ready.
I can one thing I wanted to say about that was care enough not to care, right? And it basically means you want to care enough about what you want out of life to better yourself, not to care enough about the things that are going to stop you from going to get those things.
Love it.
So, just basically you got to care enough not to care, man. And I mean, when I'm at work, I'm on, I'm streaming YouTube inspirational stuff that's going to actually not just really the kumbaya stuff, but the
Right.
stuff that's kind of telling me to move forward and push through any type of pain that you may be feeling. Because I always say things will work themselves out as long as I'm breathing. So any problem that you have, you don't really have to worry about it. Just keep moving forward, man. Like I teach my son now that failure is good. He's only 2.
Yeah.
So I figure if I start off young, like, if he falls, I'm like, man, it's great. Keep it up. Yeah, keep going. Because, our social constraints makes us want to say, oh, I don't want my friends to see me fail. But I mean, we've all failed. It's a part of it,
Yep.
and it's such a good thing, failure, because it teaches us about success. So we know how it feels when we finally do get there. So I would tell people, man, just like I said, care enough not to care, and really take into their own account what do they really want, and don't care about what other people have to say when they ask you, or it's weird, because it's always going to be weird to somebody who's never seen it or hasn't done it. So
Yep.
until you do it enough, then it's not going to be weird anymore. So just keep forward, just keep pushing forward.
Perfect.
Like for real.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Care enough not to care.
Yeah. Care enough to care. Yeah.
I love it. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Honestly, this has been fantastic. I love that you're putting together this business and still working, and over the next 6-12 months, you transitioning to this full time and really having that
Amen, brother.
consistency and that pipeline and everything moving
Yeah.
and exploding, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just
True.
staying consistent and not just make 22,000 and stop. It's making
Yeah.
22,000 and be more inspired than you ever
Right.
were before, because you know that you can keep going to new and bigger
Right.
and just keep going. So absolutely
Yeah.
incredible. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, man.
Anybody
Thank you.
out there
Sure.
that is interested in joining the most proactive group with Joshua, you got to go to wholesalinginc.com/TTP. Check out what the program's about. Check out all the testimonials. You're going to have to scroll for a while because there are a lot.
A lot, right?
So
Yeah.
check that out. If it feels
Yeah.
good in your gut, sign up for a call. I'd love to work with you personally. Okay?
It's worth it. Do
Thank
it.
you. Wholesalinginc.com/TTP.
Sure.
Joshua, thank you so much.
Yeah,
From
man.
Gonzales, Louisiana. Love
Sure.
it. Everybody out there, thank you again for listening to this episode. And I encourage you, as always, to talk to people. Until next time, see ya.
All right, guys.